What's going on, everyone? Crush back here with another video today. Hope everyone's doing great. I know I am. And today I got another breakdown for y'all on the second episode of The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah. And yeah, let's just get right on into it. So I'm pretty much gonna start this video off exactly how I did last time. I'm going to summarize what happened in the episode. I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on it and how I feel about it at the end. So, in case y'all haven't watched it, spoilers up ahead, you know the vibe, and I would suggest not watching anything past this part at this point if you don't want to be spoiled. So, let's get right on into it. So the episode starts out pretty interestingly, I'm not gonna lie. I really like how they've been starting these episodes up with flashbacks of the past. So in the beginning, we don't continue right away on where we last left off in the first episode. We actually start off many years in the past. I'm not actually sure how long ago it was. It had to have been around 20 years, probably around the time when the first episode really started with Joel and Sarah, but a little bit before then. More of when the outbreak was stable, more of when the human race, specifically the government, was learning about the infection and when they were actually trying to do something to stop it. The episode starts out in Indonesia, Jakarta, I think that's how you pronounce it, and it starts out in a restaurant. And in the restaurant, you see a whole bunch of people just talking, doing what you usually do in a restaurant, eating, just chilling, you know, having a good time. And what sticks out immediately in the restaurant is one big group of guys just talking, just drinking and all that. And you also see a lady that's kind of minding her own business. And a couple seconds later, the camera shifts from the people at the table to the front door, kind of where the waitresses usually chill out, you know, and proceed to walk people down to tables, that type of stuff. And two people walk in, and they look like they're either police or some kind of government official. But I think they were actually part of the military, given what happens later on in the episode. So the two military men, they walk in and they start talking to the hostess, and they're asking her questions, and they're clearly looking for somebody. And the hostess, she points to a specific direction, and she points near the back where the men were that were just sitting, minding their own business, smoking at the table, and where the lady were. And at first glance, you'd think that the military men slash police officers, or whatever the hell rank they were in the government, were originally going after the group of men smoking at the table and having fun and doing their thing, you know. And it also looked like the lady had called the cops on them to try and get them out, you know. But that's actually not what happens. So they start walking in the direction of all the men, and it at first glance looks like they're gonna approach them and probably, you know, arrest them or kick them out or do something. But they're actually not there for the men. They were actually looking for the older lady that was in the back of the restaurant just minding her own business. And in the next scene, you see her in the car with the men, and she's asking a few questions. She's asking, yeah, where am I going? Do you have the right person? Stuff like that. And they confirmed that they were looking for her and that she was the professor of mycology that she was looking for. And I actually didn't know what that meant, so I had to Google it. And apparently, surprise, surprise, it's the study of fungus. And this person seems to be very promising and very knowledgeable in her field, because after they bring her back to, I guess, their base of operation, they have her look through a microscope. And after looking through the microscope, she immediately knows what she's looking at and can confirm that it's some kind of fungus, or it's some kind of, I don't remember what it's called, but it's what's inside the infected, you know, like it's the shit that grows inside of them. I almost want to call it chromosomes because I don't know what to call it, you know. Extra chromosomes. That's what makes the infected become total retards. Surprise, surprise. I'm clearly just kidding around and having some LOLs around here. They're actually called cordyceps. And that's the type of fungus that's inside the zombies in The Last of Us. And she's asking a few questions and they're telling her a few answers. And they're basically confirming that the cordyceps were found inside a human and that they captured the human. They put the human down after she apparently started biting other employees at the place that she worked at, and their whole goal was to try and get this person to find a cure to get rid of the cordyceps that grow inside people, because that's why these people go crazy and turn into zombies, because the cordyceps take over your mind and body and stuff like that, you know. So after doing a little bit digging around and looking at a test subject that the military was able to capture, she concludes that there's no cure, and that the only way that they can cure, quote unquote cure, this outbreak and contain it is by basically bombing the whole city. Soon afterwards, the scene concludes, and then we're taken back to present day, where Ellie, Tess, and Joel are just chilling, sitting down, relaxing. Ellie's just waking up from sleeping, and they're just doing some talking and kind of shooting the shit, you know. After they're done talking a little bit about Ellie's bite and deciding whether or not she's going to get infected, and eventually concluding that she's immune, and after Ellie starts to talk to them a little bit more about, you know, where they're going, a Firefly base out west, and what the Fireflies have planned for them, they eventually leave the place that they're at and go out more in the open during the daytime. And you really get to see a much more clear image of how the Last of Us show looks. And I do have to say, it's really, really nice. But I'll get more on my own thoughts and how I think the episode looks visually, along with the storyline at the end of the review. While they're walking, they're also deciding where to go. They eventually decide that they should go through a big building to try and get to their destination. And while they're walking through the big open area, the big open plains, they see a whole bunch of craters, and it's eventually confirmed that those craters were caused by bombings. Not just in the city that they were at, which I think it was Boston, but all over the world, including Indonesia, where we started off in the episode. After a little bit more walking, they're just kind of still shooting the shit, just talking about different stuff. Tess and Ellie seem to be getting along quite well, while Joel's kind of acting like a third wheel on a date. He's just kind of chilling, sitting back and, you know, not doing anything, just staying on high alert. And Ellie's asking about zombies and talking about some rumors that she heard. And while they're walking on the bridge that they're walking on, they do hear a scream and hear a zombie in the distance, which kind of, you know, sets a little foreshadow in this episode on what's to come. So after they're done walking, they eventually are on a balcony on a building, and they're planning on going through a little courtyard in order to get to their destination. Lo and behold to them, though, that they see a whole fucking horde of zombies just chilling, laying down, kind of like chicks on a beach trying to get a tan, you know. They're all just laying down there on their backs, not really doing anything. And after the whole group sees that, they're all pretty much like, alright, well fuck that, we can't go this way anymore. Joel also mentioned something that I found was really interesting, and I honestly can't remember if this was in the game or not, but Joel was giving a little bit of information on the cordyceps that are inside people and how long they can get, and is talking about how they can sometimes stretch up to a mile long. And basically, if you step on that, or if, you know, I guess play it like a guitar string, then the infected within a certain distance will be able to know that there's something going on and will run to the exact location that you're causing some bullshit, you know? Which is, again, more foreshadowing later in the episode. So fast forward, they end up going a different way. They go inside the museum, which is pretty on point with the video game, because they do end up going inside a museum as well in the video game. And after finding some dead bodies around that look somewhat fresh, they eventually decide to be perfectly silent and to try and be as sneaky as possible, going full Assassin's Creed. And with each step as they're walking through the museum is clearly unstable. The wood on the stairs clearly have been, I don't know what the word is, but it's old and it's coming apart, you know. And with every step, the whole building seems to be falling down and, you know, breaking apart. And eventually, when they get all the way up to the stairs and enter the main upstairs museum portion of the museum, the stairway and the direction that they just entered from completely collapses, and they're trapped inside this new upper area of the museum that they just entered in. And pretty much immediately after all shit fell down, you hear a very loud screech. And what did the screech belong to? Not just a zombie infected, but a clicker. Yup. We got to see clickers in live action. Holy shit. It's important to mention, especially if you haven't played the video game and this is actually your first time seeing a clicker, that clickers are blind. They can't see anything, but they have really good hearing. So if you step on a piece of glass, or if you're just a little bit too loud in general, that clicker will find you. It's kind of like a bat, you know? And there's not just one in there either. There's at least two. So at first they're just trying to silently move around the clicker, and Ellie is clearly in shock. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I would probably have shit my pants. Ellie has more balls than me. If I was in that position, I wouldn't be making a damn sound. But if that clicker can smell, it will smell me. It will smell me shitting my pants. Let's just say that. But anyway, enough about me and me being a pussy. Turned out pretty well and pretty solid. They're just trying to sneak around the clickers. And Joel, after seeing that Ellie's breathing a little bit too heavily, he's trying to show her using hand signs that the clickers are blind and that they rely on the echolocation and sound in order to find people, and to not breathe too heavy or else they'll hear them. And everything was going okay for the most part until a clicker got a little too close and Ellie's breathing just got a little too intense. So after the clicker eventually heard Ellie breathing a little too heavily, it just arches its back, starts screaming in the direction of Ellie, I guess to use echolocation to see exactly who's there. And after the clicker starts screaming, Joel basically goes into fuck it mode, Danny DeVito mode, and is pretty much like, alright, time to start blasting, and then just gets his AR out and starts shooting it. And the other clicker obviously hears this as well, and then there's a fight between Joel, Tess, Ellie versus the clickers. Joel gets in a massive brawl with one of them and just tries to 1v1 it. Meanwhile, Tess and Ellie are trying to run away and, you know, seek cover and probably find a way to get the clicker off Joel. But as they're running, both Tess and Ellie trip. Tess twists her ankle and runs away, and Ellie hides under a table while one of the other clickers is pursuing Tess. Meanwhile, Joel's still fighting the first clicker, shooting at it, just blasting right away, trying to trick it by knocking shit over and getting it to run in a certain direction. He eventually finds Ellie on the floor and he gets closer to her and tries to tell her move away slowly so they can hopefully get away from the clicker. But after stepping on a piece of glass or something that's, you know, loud enough for a clicker to hear on the floor, the clicker jumps over the table and tackles Joel, kind of like how Lester B wishes that John Cena would just tackle him into the men's bathroom and that, you know, whatever happens next. But anyway, getting back on with the story, Joel shoots the clicker a few more times in the chest, gets it off of him, and then shoots it in the head and kills it. Meanwhile, clicker number 2 is running at Joel and Ellie, and they're preparing to fight it. But out of nowhere, Tess, with the Babe Ruth home run of a lifetime, gets the old reliable battle axe out and just hits a home run on this motherfucker's neck. And then Joel eventually gets his AR again and shoots it until it dies. And then they're eventually able to escape the museum. After leaving, Joel tries to help Tess out a little bit with their sprained ankle. And Tess is just having nothing to do with this. She's acting super pissed off, and you can tell something's just on her mind, you know? Something's fucking with her. And she's not happy. She's just not happy. Which, I'm gonna be honest, if I've sprained my ankle probably 3 or 4 times in my life, and that shit hurts. Like, that shit sucks, you know? After leaving the museum, they head to the Capitol, where they find it odd that there's nobody there, and after looking around a little bit, Joel finds a few bodies dead on the ground, and he looks in the back of this truck to see if there's any clues to where these fireflies could be, and Ellie eventually finds blood on the ground that leads inside the Capitol where they were heading, and after they go inside, they find multiple dead people. One of the people that were dead was infected, and they all ended up getting killed somehow. Meanwhile, Tess is going even more apeshit and just trying to figure out where they should go next, and after Joel suggests that they just end it here and try and go back and, you know, just give up and think of a new plan, Tess basically acts like that's not possible and that they have to keep going and they can't give up. And after another minute of Tess just, you know, spewing all this whatever the hell she's spewing, Ellie eventually figures out that she's infected. Joel gets Tess to reveal where the bite was, which was between her right shoulder and her head, kind of in that, you know, middle ground area. And it's revealed that Tess is gonna die, which, again, anyone that's played the video game already knows this, okay? But here's where this episode gets cool, okay? Because this is where it gets different. While they're trying to figure out what to do next, the infected guy who was on the ground that they assumed was dead wasn't actually dead, and he was making some noise, and Joel real quickly, most likely out of frustration with Tess getting bit, shoots his motherfucker in the head with his revolver. And after he does that, going back to what I said before about how cordyceps, you know, are super long and how, like, if you play it like a guitar, then the whole gang will hear you play it. Well, that's pretty much what happened. After Joel shot this guy in the head, the whole horde was able to figure out exactly where they were. And after they realized what would happen, and Joel firsthand saw that there was a whole horde coming and predicted that they only had about a minute to live, Tess basically tells Joel that it's up to him now and to get Ellie safe, and that they'd have to go on without her. And what makes this different is after Joel and Ellie leave, Tess doesn't die from the military. It's her versus the zombie horde. And she basically tells Joel to just run and that she would stop the zombies from pursuing her. And there's a whole bunch of weapons still around since the fireflies were in that location. And there's a whole bunch of guns and gasoline, grenades, stuff like that around, you know, because it's a militia. And Tess pours all the gasoline on the ground and throws the grenades on the ground and has a lighter out, trying to light a flame. But it seems like her lighter just isn't working that well. It kind of reminds me of Lester B when he tries to light his joint up and he just gets super frustrated because it's just low on juice, you know? After the horde gets in, they start running immediately away from Tess, which I'm honestly surprised that they didn't notice her at first. I mean, she was standing still, but, you know, I find it a little weird that they just ran past her immediately. However, this didn't last for very long. Eventually, one zombie slowly walked up to her and was trying to basically French kiss her with cortisomes. And after getting the worst French kiss of all time, if I'm going to be honest, if I ever got the worst French kiss of all time, kind of like how it's tested, I would probably want to light myself on fire too. So after she's getting French kissed by this zombie, the lighter eventually lights a flame and she drops it on the ground and the whole museum blows up. All the grenades blow up, the zombies are on fire, and clearly they're distracted and they're not going to go after Joel and Ellie, you know. Joel and Ellie make it out alive, they're safe, and they're kind of just chilling in the grass, and that's where the episode ends. So now let's get into my thoughts on the episode. Again, just like the first episode, I thought it was really good. I'm not gonna lie. I actually liked this episode even more than the first one, even though it was a little bit shorter, you know? I really liked it. I liked how they were pretty much on point with the story. I thought the dialogue was really clever. I really liked the beginning. The beginning, I don't know, I just think it's really cool how they have these flashbacks of before the virus spread and basically when it was in early stages and showing off what the government was trying to do to prevent it from spreading and how extreme they would go to prevent it from spreading. It was also kind of bone chilling when you heard the professor say that there was no cure and that they would have to bomb. That just shows how fucked up the virus is. There's no cure at all, you know, there's no cure. And the fact that someone like Ellie is actually able to resist it when someone who was studying fungus their own life said that it wasn't possible for the cordyceps disease, aka the zombie outbreak disease, it's just crazy, you know? I thought they were pretty on point with the direction that they were heading with the show. It was very similar to the game once again, especially the museum scene. That was probably the most on point comparison to the show in the video game, as well as when Tess gets infected. I thought that the side conversations were really cool. I don't know why. I just really like the side conversations. I'm kind of a sucker for that shit. But I thought the side convos were cool where they were kind of starting to open up a little bit about each other, get more comfortable with each other. And even though Tess died a totally different death than how she did in the video game, which if you haven't played the video game, again, spoilers ahead, but she dies from the military. She doesn't die from the infection. She doesn't die from zombies. She doesn't die from suicide. She dies from the military. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm going to keep it real. I actually liked the ending to this episode and to Tess's arc more than I did with the video game. Because if you really think about it, I don't think it makes too much sense that the military would be hunting down 3 people. And sure, they may have beaten the shit out of and killed several of the military on their own, but it just doesn't make sense to risk your ass going into the city looking for 3 lowlifes in their eyes, you know? It just doesn't make sense. So I think Tessa's death was much more realistic than in the video game. I think that, you know, and also it's way more badass if I'm gonna be honest, because she killed 2 soldiers, I think, and then died from the other few in the video game. Versus in here, she went on a goddamn killing spree. You kidding me? She took like 50 zombies with her. If that's not badass, I don't know what is, you know? So, there was just a lot that I liked in this episode. I thought it was really cool, and I just like the direction this show's going. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't sure how it would go, but everything is on point. Everything is on point, and even if the show isn't quite on point, they still make it good, you know? They still make it really good. So how would I rate this episode? I would give this one a little bit of a higher score than the first one. Like I said, in the first show, there was a few things here and there that I thought they didn't land on the money perfectly. But in this, I think everything was executed pretty much perfectly, you know? I have no complaints. I would give this a solid 9.5 out of 10. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10 because you can always make stuff better, you know? But 9.5 out of 10, in my opinion, is pretty good. It's really fucking good. It's really good, you know? So, best episode so far. Can't wait to see how the 3rd episode's going to be. I know that we're going to get introduced to Bill, aka my boy Ron Swanson, trying to survive the apocalypse. So, that's going to be really cool. So, yeah, can't wait for it next week. And, yeah, that's pretty much the end of this little review that I have for y'all today. Anyway, though, that's the end. Hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.